Hello, and welcome to the Part C Indicator 4 Family Outcomes Data webinar, presented by the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center and the Center for IDEA Data Systems. This webinar will highlight data from federal fiscal year 2019. After a brief overview to the indicator, the main topics we will cover are state approaches, data quality, performance data, and resources. State approaches include things like what surveys were used, the populations of families who were surveyed, and methodologies for survey dissemination and returning surveys. Next, we will cover data quality in terms of response rates and representativeness. Then we will look at the national performance data trends. And finally, we will conclude with key national resources. Before we jump into the data, we want to remind everyone what data are included and where the data came from. These data are from federal fiscal year, or FFY 2019, which states submitted in their February 2021 annual performance report submission. Some states align to their school year or their state fiscal year, which would be the 2019-2020 year. All 50 states are included, along with 6 territories and jurisdictions, for a total of 56 entities. This includes American Samoa, the District of Columbia, Guam, the Northern Marianas Islands, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. We will use the term states throughout the webinar to include states, territories, and jurisdictions. All 56 states submitted Part C Indicator 4 data. As far as the data sources go, the numeric performance data are exported from the online grad system and provided to us by OSEP. The ECTA and ECTA centers coded a number of additional variables by reading through each state's APR and looking for the key variables that you will see here today. There is quite a bit of variation in the level of detail states include in their APRs. So in some cases there are missing data, as these are not all required elements for inclusion in the grad submission. Let's move on. Throughout this webinar, we will be sharing various data related to Indicator 4 of the Part C Annual Performance Report. This indicator has 3 parts, all addressing the measurement of how helpful the early intervention program has been for families in the following areas. A, helping the family know their rights. B, helping the family effectively communicate their child's needs. And C, helping the family help their child develop and learn. Although we will be drilling into some variation, this is the unifying common measurement regardless of survey used or specific scoring methodology. Now let's look at an overview of the various surveys used to measure family outcomes. All states are using a well-defined methodology for surveying families for Indicator C4. These are the 4 main types of surveys, listed in order of the most frequently used types. The most frequently used survey is the Early Childhood Outcomes Center Family Outcomes Survey Revised 2010. 20 states are using this survey. The next most frequently used survey was developed by the National Center for Special Education and Monitoring, or NCSEM. 17 states used this survey. Next, we see that 12 states are using a survey developed by their own state. Please note that this state-developed survey group consists of all unique surveys, so there is more variation in tool format within this group compared to the other groups. Lastly, we have the Early Childhood Outcomes Center Original Family Outcome Survey. 7 states used this survey. There were no reported changes from last year to this year. Note that some of the surveys use multiple questions for each of the 3 overall family outcomes. Others are represented by 1 question, and some use a statistical methodology called RASH scoring to assess performance on the 3 outcomes based on the family's overall score. In the results you see here, we are reporting the tool used for Indicator C4 only. For example, if a state used a survey they developed on their own to get program information from families, but then they added the 3 questions from the ECHO FOS original survey for Indicator 4 reporting on their APR, they were coded as ECHO FOS original here. In this map, we can see which states, outlying territories, and jurisdictions are using each survey type. Please take a moment to press pause and review the map. Next, we will take a deeper look into the various state approaches to family outcomes measurement by looking at the family populations that states are surveying. Nationally, we see that 16 states, about 29%, include families with a minimum of 6 months in the program. This is usually based on the theory that families need to be in the program for some minimum amount of time to see benefits from the program. Another group of 25 states, about 45%, surveyed all families regardless of length of time in the program. The remainder have unique criteria or did not explain their survey frame in their APR. In addition, we determined that 8 states used approved sampling plans that included stratified random samples and samples from districts or regions, among others. This is consistent with the number of states that reported using sampling plans last year. Next, we will look at how states approach disseminating their family surveys and getting their surveys returned. Dissemination method refers to the ways states are getting the survey to the intended families. For dissemination, 36 states are using multiple methods, meaning they used more than one method to get surveys to families. This is an increase from 31 states last year and 24 states 2 years ago. 2 states use an in-person method to get the survey to families, which includes approaches such as a service coordinator or provider handing a paper survey to a family at a home visit or IFSP meeting. This is down from 8 states last year, which is likely a result of the COVID pandemic. 8 states use mail-only surveys, which is 2 more than last year. An additional 10 states did not outline their methods in their APR. Next, we look at return methods, which refers to the ways in which families return a completed survey. Here we also see 31 states using multiple ways for the families to return the survey. This is the same number of states as last year. A smaller portion of states used mail or in-person return as their only method. Some state staff are specifically interested in the number of states that have an online option, so we continue to look at that each year. We have seen this number increase each year, and this year 36 states reported this, which puts us up to 64% nationally. Next, we look at survey timing. For the states that report details about the timing of their survey collection, most states administer the survey annually at a given point in time, which is consistent with previous years, although the percentage is down slightly from 54% to 48%. The states in this group would also include states who have a survey window that might be several months long. The remaining states disseminate their survey according to benchmarks in a child's participation in the program, such as at IFSP meetings or at exit. This year, we have over a third of states who did not report this information in their APR. Next, we move on to a brief look at data quality, where we will see the national picture with respect to response rates and representativeness. Here we have some overall response rate data, which we will explore further in the next slide. 54 states reported a response rate. The response rate varied greatly from a low of 5% to a high of 100%. Interestingly, the mean response rate went down by less than 1 percentage point, indicating that the states held their response rates steady through the early part of the pandemic. Here is a deeper look at the individual state response rates. In this figure, each bar represents one state, and they are sorted from smallest to largest. The distribution shows that 43 states reported a return rate of less than 50%. This slide drills into the variations in response rates based on the distribution and return methods used. Take a moment to review this data. This year, in-person distribution had the highest average response rates. However, since only 2 states used this method, the data should be treated with caution. Also, states who used multiple return methods had a higher average response rate than states who used a mail-only method. Together, your dissemination and return methods are one area to consider when thinking about which factors might be connected to improving response rates. Another drill down we encourage is to look at your response rates across different subgroups, such as by region or local program, family language, or other child and family variables. Next, we will look at the representativeness of the data. Representativeness refers to the degree to which you think your survey data adequately represent the families in your program that you intended to survey. All states report on whether they determine that their survey results were representative overall of the state. The data here show the self-reported answer to the following question in the grad system, which states, quote, "The The demographics of the families responding are representative of the demographics of infants, toddlers, and families enrolled in the Part C program. This year, the number of states that reported yes to this question dropped from 40 to 32, and the number of states that answered no rose from 16 to 23. The reason for this change is still unclear. Also, one state did not provide this data. We also coded the variables states were using to assess the representativeness of their data. The top 3 variables that states looked at were race and ethnicity, geographic variables like district, county, or region, and child gender. The data here show the number of states that assessed representativeness by each of these factors. There were 31 states, or 55%, that assessed representativeness by race and ethnicity. This is up from 54% last year. There were 19 states, or 34%, that looked at geographic variables. This is up from 25% last year. 19 states, or 34%, looked at child gender. This is up from 27% last year. States often look at more than one variable, so these are not mutually exclusive. In other words, a single state could be reflected in more than one of the groups reported here. Other variables used less frequently include child's age, disability or eligibility categories, length of time in services, income, and primary language. It is common to see variation in survey data across subgroups and across years. States vary as to how they assess representativeness given this variation and how they make conclusions about their data. When assessing representativeness, it is important to consider the variety of factors that could affect data quality and interpretation. These factors include things like disproportionality in response rates among family subgroups, minimum response rates, and sample size. Paying attention to each of these factors can help with an accurate assessment of representativeness. Next, we will review the performance data. These data will show how states fared on each of the 3 family outcomes. Nationally, in FFY 2019, 91% of families reported that early intervention services helped them know their rights. 91% reported that the program helped them effectively communicate their child's needs, and 93% reported that the program helped their child develop and learn. Overall, we consider these data to be stable over time. Now let's take a moment to review the indicator 4 results over multiple years. As you can see in these column charts, the results have remained rather stable over time, and they have been high since the inception of this indicator. Among the 3 family outcomes, the highest percentage has consistently been in the area of helping their child develop and learn. There is also general consistency across years within individual states, although the performance data may differ across family subgroups. This slide shows performance results by survey type. When viewing the performance results this way, we see slight variation across the tools. Notice that the scores from the NCSEAM tend to be a bit lower. Also, keep in mind the following items when interpreting the data. Number 1, surveys within the state-developed survey group may be unique to one another, and they may be significantly modified versions of either the NCSEAM, the FOS, or the FOS revised. Number 2, among the states that reported performance data in FFY 2019, the FOS was used by 7 states, the FOS revised was used by 19 states, the NCSEAM was used by 17 states, and 12 states used state-developed surveys. Someone with a sharp eye will notice that on slide 6, we reported that 20 states use the FOS revised. This is because this year, one state using the FOS revised did not collect any data. And number 3, each tool has their own scoring methodology, so use caution when comparing results across tools. Finally, we wanted to share a few of our most popular resources around family outcomes data. Here are several resources you can find readily available on the ECTA and ECTA Center websites, including background information about family outcomes, strategies for family engagement, recommended practices, toolkits, calculators, and graphing templates. We encourage you to take some time to review these resources on your own. If you have any questions or feedback, please contact the DAISY and ECTA staff listed here. For more information about the ECTA and DAISY centers, please visit our websites at the addresses listed here. This concludes our presentation. Thanks for your interest in family outcomes, and have a great day.